Welcome guys back to the Khana Prep podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Today we got a very special guest whose business boomed in lockdown. He talks about his struggles growing up and how, basically, an all-round fitness fanatic. Sean, how are you doing? How's everything going?
I'm all good, thank you, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
No.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. Did you travel from far?
Shoreditch.
Shoreditch?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
no way.
Yeah,
East London.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. But Lizzie line, so easy.
Yeah.
It took like just over 40 minutes.
I remember when the Elizabeth line first got introduced, I was in university, I was like, mate, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
In 2018, first they said it was going to be like ready by 2018. I was like, this is going to be so easy. I just jump on the line straight to my destination. I went to university in South London, so Elephant and Castle is where I used to drop off, and then there was an art school there that I used to go. I was like, mate, this is going to be so simple. It's only until I graduated, it's like 6 years later, then it started, then it opened up now, just recently, so.
Yeah, and
London Transport.
I couldn't believe it. I literally just jumped on there, it was like 6 stops, and then
really?
that was it, yeah.
That's
like
crazy.
One change, and I was like, oh, sweet, man.
Have you lived all your life in Shoreditch?
Nah, only the last 9 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but I'm totally that guy that's just moved there, and now I've got the tote bag, and now I've got the beard and the glasses.
Hipster now.
Yeah, exactly.
Hipster.
I've turned into everything I didn't want to be.
You go box park every other day, you know what I mean?
We actually live like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
But we try to avoid. We try to do all independent coffee shops.
Box park is, Shoreditch is like that place where it's like an amalgamation of, if you want everything in London, like you go Shoreditch, I think.
Yeah.
It's got everything there.
And that's what we loved about it as well. But the nice thing is where we live, there's quite a lot of like parks and like activities and stuff to do. So it's not just concrete jungle. There's like don't get me wrong, when you walk around the park and then you just, there's hundreds of people there. But then the day that I realised, I could move here because my girlfriend lived there already.
Yeah.
I was walking around Victoria Park and I was like, this is beautiful. I could live here. Looked down and there were 2 rats literally strangling each other, and I was like, that's just part of London now. Yeah,
that's it. Rats in London are part of London culture.
Exactly.
Like you can't get over them.
Exactly.
Have you always lived in London? Like that's
No. I came from like Wokingham, so right by Reading. I lived in a tiny little village called Finchampstead, and it's literally, you could walk from one side to the other in probably about an hour. Wow. Probably about an hour or 2.
So explain to me your early days. So who was Sean when he was like 8 years old, 9 years old? Who were you in school? Like, explain your upbringing, your start.
Well, I started off. Well, I've always grown up on a council estate. So up until I moved to Shoreditch, I was in a council estate in Finchampstead, living with my dad. My dad's completely blind. Wow. So yeah, and my mum left when I was like 9, so single parent. I was quite quiet, all the way through. Never played any sport or anything because we were quite I didn't come from it always makes me sound like I come from the ghetto or something, but we just didn't have much money and there wasn't much going on, so I never really played sport. I was just sit in front of the TV, and obviously Dad couldn't see anything, so couldn't really take me out to go and do stuff, which wasn't a bad thing, man. I've watched every action movie, every cowboy movie you can think of.
You memorize all the scenes.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But yeah, so single parent. He was completely blind, did the best job he could. I was an absolute nightmare as soon as I hit 13. I was an absolute nightmare. And because you're just hanging out with your peers that live there, were you
a troublesome kid, or were you
just an angry kid, dude? Just angry. Didn't really know what life was about. We didn't have any money. The people that we hung around, I hung around. My dad was very much don't hang around with these people, but it's kind of the environment, we were a fun day for us when we were 13, 14 was breaking into a derelict house, or trying to steal a car or something like that,
I guess that's the issues of growing up of these unfortunate these type of housing estates, because it's you have a lot of potential there, and unfortunately there's just not enough resources to hone it in, and then that's why people are complaining why is the crime gone up, or why is there so much bad stuff happening in the UK, or increasing crime rates, because these kids unfortunately don't have anything to do. You know what I mean?
And I think a huge thing about it is like, I'm very fortunate because my dad has always told me and my sisters that whatever we set our mind to, we can do. And I don't think a lot of people have that. I don't think a lot of people have a strong role model that is going to...
So was that ingrained from
Oh,
you?
mate, from day one.
Day one.
Yeah, we were only on that estate because my dad couldn't see.
Yeah.
That was the only thing. Like, he found it really hard adjusting to it. But don't get me wrong, he's like a parish councillor and stuff now.
Oh,
like,
wow.
he taught himself how to use a computer. Like, dude, he's an incredible man. But yeah, me and my sisters, ever since we were little, he's always said, you're not going to live on this estate for the rest of your life. You're going to get out of here and you're going to do whatever you want to do.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's not a lot
cool,
because it's very easy to be in a certain environment and just make that your reality, or make that the normal
Well,
things of life.
To put it in perspective, like, the people that I used to hang around with when I was like 13 to 16, a couple of them are dead.
Wow.
Like, a couple of them have been in and out of prison, and a couple of them are still on that estate. And there's like, it's crazy when you think about it. Like,
No, 100%. So troublesome childhood, a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma. How did you transition in your teenage years then? What happened then? Like what was the transition for that?
I think the main thing. Hey man.
So join us.
Nice to meet you. How's it going?
No one asked you to start again.
Yeah.
This is Mosen, by the way. He's
Nice to meet you,
another
Mosen.
co-host.
Hey, man, you good?
Yeah, good.
Sean. Yeah, he's just telling us. Sean was just telling us about his early upbringing. You get ready whenever you're ready. You can
I'm
just
good.
join in. So yeah, teenagers. When you've obviously crazy childhood. Spent a long time alone, hang around with the wrong crowd. What was the connection with like fitness, and were you a sporty kid in school? Or, like,
Nah, dude. Like, I didn't play any sport. I didn't do anything like that because, again, we never had the money to do anything like that, and it was never like, how kids would have like a couple of pairs of trainers. Like, I only had one pair of trainers, and it was just casual,
Yeah.
But when I actually got into fitness and got into like that kind of thing was because I was hanging around with the right people, and they would just be like, right, come along with us. And I was a big dude then as well. I was like 105-ish kilos, something like that. So I was, and it wasn't muscle either.
At what age?
At like 19.
Okay.
So yeah, and
so
then
a big guy.
Yeah, like
okay.
a big, like stocky dude,
Yeah.
one that ate too much bread.
Yeah.
But yeah, got into it with one of my best friends, and he was like, right, come with me. And I remember him like calling me up and being like, you coming to the gym? And I'd be like, oh man, I just really don't feel it today. Yeah. And he'd be like, just suck it up. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. And then got into it, like, felt how good it felt to train. Because, like I said, I was a really angry kid. And, like, it was good to, like, I'd leave there and I'd be like, I feel really good. Like, I don't feel as angry as I used to. Like, then shed all the weight. Started going every day, like after work, and went to the gym so much that the guys at the gym were like, why don't you just get like a 2-day-a-week job here, and then you get free membership? Because I was friendly with them, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'll like clean up a little bit for like 2 days out of the week and just get free membership. And it all kind of like spiraled from there, really.
And this was in your local area, right?
Yeah, it was about 15-minute drive from my house.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I knew all the guys from there because it was right next to my school, my like old secondary school.
So this is an interesting point. I mean, you were hanging around with the wrong crowd. It's very hard for someone who's grown up I would assume like people find a sense of family and well-being when they hang around, wherever, a good crowd or bad crowd. How was that transition? You mentioned you were hanging around with a bad crowd. Your life was kind of spiraling downwards, or just not in the good place. And then what inspired the mindset change to then hang around with a better crowd, and then that would have a positive impact on your outlook?
I think it was it was teachers at the school I was at, because they always gave me opportunities, and they were always very kind to me and always pushed me to do stuff.
Yeah.
But secondly, I just saw everyone going to prison and like getting people pregnant and stuff, and I was like, this just isn't for me. And my dad made it very, very clear that like, you got to get out, go work hard like he did, and make something of your life. Like, go and see stuff, go and do stuff. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't an easy road, because like troublesome teenager to turned into fun-loving, drug-taking, like 18-year-old and who gets kicked out of sixth form. And then as soon as I got kicked out of sixth form, I was like, I have to sort my life out. And I tried like loads and loads of different jobs, but it was only when I started doing that, like I would work a road labour job in Ealing, and then I would come back, get dropped off at the gym, train at the gym, and then go home. But then when I got that part-time job there, I was like literally sweeping up to get free membership, like once or twice a week. And then all of a sudden, like they were like, "Oh, we've got a PT apprenticeship coming up. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." So quit a pretty good job doing road construction to do. I was getting paid £2.50 an hour for 16 hours. So I had
That's the apprenticeship.
Yeah, that was the apprenticeship. Yeah, and it's weird back then. I don't know if it still works like that now, but it wasn't like, "Oh, this apprenticeship, we're teaching you how to do stuff." It's like, you're on the gym floor, go and train people. It was like, yeah. And I was like, so you really, it's a sink or swim, really. If you don't sell,
you eat what
you're out, mate.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
There's something that you mentioned that recently has resonated to me a lot. This issue about anger. And you mentioned something about, getting kicked out of sixth form. And, where was this anger coming from? And how did you find that this training was giving you a space to kind of let that steam out?
For me, I think it was that, like, my parents broke up when I was like 9, and I think reflection now, it was definitely abandonment. Like, it was definitely like things are unfair, and you don't know how to express it as a kid. And I love my dad to death, but he wasn't the best at communicating at that time. So it would be very much a manly household where it would be like grunt at each other when you talk about emotions and stuff. And I didn't even know about it up until I started exercising. That I just thought I was impulsive and like nobody can tell me what to do, and like I make my own way and all that sort of stuff. But it was, in reflection, it was just a hell of a lot of resentment and a hell of a lot of anger that we were trapped in this really unfortunate situation.
Because there's a lot of people, I think, maybe perhaps listen to this podcast, who will can definitely relate to the concept of coming from a broken family, or for example, parents have divorced, and again, like you mentioned, they feel a sense of being abandoned, but then that kind of abandonment leads into frustration and anger, and for some people it leads on to some very dangerous paths, like you mentioned. Some people end up in prison, some people end up with drugs. Somebody who's walked a similar path, or somebody who's had those feelings, how have you then gone and dealt with them? Well,
again, I think training was like one of the biggest outlets for me. I still remember the day where it was kind of weird, like a few years into training and a few years actually feeling settled and into a career for me. I never knew what I wanted to do, but like one day I just woke up and I wasn't angry anymore. And that sounds great to everybody, but when you have a sense of purpose for like a decade of feeling angry, what is there? It took me a long time. I didn't understand why I felt angry, and then you have to take kind of like a reflection on what happened in your life to make you feel like that. Because when you're in it, you don't realize you're in it. You're just impulsive and just mad at everyone and the world, But I do really think that exercise and focusing on like career and stuff has definitely been my outlet. But again, I've dipped in and out of therapy and stuff like in my later years, which is I always say that everybody should do therapy, no matter what your home situation is like. It's good to chat to people outside of it,
100%. Just to touch on the apprenticeship side of things, I think there's a big rise in apprenticeships. I think in this kind of generation now, people are seeing the benefits of doing apprenticeships rather than going the traditional route of say university and then learning about stuff there, which is nothing wrong with it. But I guess different people are seeing the different opportunities now. I've heard PT apprenticeship, or like becoming a personal trainer, is not as where it seems. I heard in some gyms it's where you almost pay a rent to the gym and then almost have to pay that back through your classes. Right. How does it work? Give us a breakdown on what that looks like.
Well, I was like the last generation of PTs before Facebook and Instagram. So when you saw a freelance PT, it was like, oh, holy shit. It was like, oh man, okay, cool. It was like, whoa, he's done it. He's got out of this. He's done it. And then obviously like Facebook and Instagram came in and everybody's a freelance PT. But back when back when I was doing it, that was like the dream. Like that's going to be hard to get there. You have to build up a client base, like, and that's before you can put out being like, I've got space for X amount, you know. But when I first got in there, so I was doing 16 hours, and again they were like, right, go and sell, and I was like, is anyone going to tell me like how to train people or how to speak to people or anything like that? And they were like, no, this is like your target, like go and get it. If you don't get it in 2 months, you're out. Like that's what it was, you know. And like, and the manager that I had wasn't the best at the time because he only favoured the people that were good at selling. So it was like, you're favouring the people that are good at selling, but you're not helping the ones that aren't do a good job. So again, it's sink or swim. But at that point, I had to work like 2 different jobs just to make sure that I was like covering my rent, living, like all that sort of stuff. And but when I did that for a couple of years, and I was like, this is crap. Went to recruitment for like 6 months, absolutely hated it, and went back to another gym. I don't know if you know it, Nirvana Spa. It's like voted like best spa in England.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just, if you ever get the opportunity, go.
Where is it?
Just in Reading.
It's in Nirvana, bro.
Yeah.
Nirvana
It
Spa.
feels like Nirvana, dude. It's really nice. Yeah.
It's in Reading.
Yeah. So it's in like Reading, Sindlesham kind of way. But yeah, it got voted best spa in the UK or something like a couple of times. But yeah, went there, and then when I was there, I was on 13 grand a year, and at this point I'm like, I'm balling, like PT,
13 grand a year from £2.50 an hour.
Exactly,
Like, bro, I'm rich, bro. You know what I mean?
On it, and like it's a really big spa, and the gym's really big, and when I got there, it was really, really good because I worked with like a huge team of different PTs, and each one of them had their own like individual like space, and I was just like a sponge, man. I would walk around with like this, everyone used to rip on me for it, but I would walk around with like this, it looked like a Filofax of just like stuff. I'd sit down and I'd chat to them about loads of different stuff. So people that were really good with like biomechanists, like people that were really good with strength training. We had a strength and conditioning coach, like every bit of information that I could take from these people, I was like writing it down and trying to learn from it, because I was like, if I'm here, and plus I've always had that thing, man, where like if I feel like I'm bottom, then I'm going to the top. You know, like that's the thing, and I will get there. But it's kind of like I was just absorbing as much knowledge. But you in that one, you would teach, I think it was 30 classes a week. And then you would have one-to-ones on top of that. But like the one-to-ones, it was really good because I learned so much, but it was like 89p on top of your hourly rate. Wow. So I think you were getting like £6.50 or something for like PT and somebody one-to-one.
It's crazy. Sorry, go for it.
Let me mention something there. I think obviously, you know, that period that you had in the gym where, you know, they just threw you in and said, look, you know, do what you can. But you know, me listening to the story, I think that's what makes you. I mean, I think if you like, as in, if that wasn't part of your story, and you couldn't, like right now, let's say you were talking right now and you couldn't mention that part of the story, the story almost wouldn't exist. But I think it almost defines you as a person, because you know you were thrown into this gym, not having any sales experience. You got the guys that get on with it type of thing. If you're not out the door, but that's kind of pushed you to your limits. And now, obviously, you've gone to this other gym now where the facilities are a lot better. You know, there's a lot more people to talk to. But had you not had that previous experience, which was, you know, basically, you know, go swim or go drown. But that's causing you to swim a lot faster in this thing. And I think a lot of people, you know, especially when you have life experiences, sometimes the really, really difficult times, they make the slightly better times a lot more fruitful, don't they?
Yeah.
Because like if you have this much difficulty, and then you're given this much ease, you know how to make the most of that ease. But if you've got just ease all the time, and then you're given a little more ease, you can't see the difference.
And
it's just what you said. When you want £2.50 an hour, then you went to 13 grand. You must have felt like a millionaire.
Bro,
it's like,
I couldn't believe it when I saw like the money coming in the account, and I was like, I'm doing what I love, and I'm getting like sick money, and then like they really did work you for it. But at the same point, the way that I saw it, well, that they had like a tier system there where. It was really weird. It was a really weird way of doing things, but it was like nobody in their first year had gone up a tier, and I was like, well, I'm going to do that. I was like, I'm going to show you that I'm going to be the first one to do that. And like you would get these things called passports. So it was basically a PT session, like that all the people, every member of this gym got one once a month. And like we would do 30 classes, like at least a week. And they were like, oh, okay, cool. So to incentivize you, you'll get a £20 Amazon gift voucher if you do the most passports. And I was like, well, I'm getting that. Like that's it. So I would literally walk around, chat to everyone in the gym and get them in for their passports just so that I could win. And I think it was like 6 months in a row I had like 20 more than the person below, and it got to the point where they took away the Amazon voucher because it was guaranteed going to me, and I was like, that's messed up, man. Like, you just give me a pay increase. Like, what the hell? But then it actually, like, one thing, oh no, I shouldn't say it really, I'll get them in trouble. The gym were like, oh, like, try not to do as many passports, because, you know, like, you're getting a lot of people to use the facilities. Like, we kind of don't, like, we don't want that many people, like, coming through, that kind of thing. And I was like, so you don't want me to make more money? And, you know, like, it's one of those things, that was a hard lesson to learn, where it wasn't, like, just about loving what you do, like, it's about business as well. So,
that's an important thing. I feel like a lot of people, with whatever they learn, I mean, I learned this out when I was, like, 16, 17 as well. I was like, whatever profession you're going to go in, you need to learn how to sell yourself. Yeah. Like, you just have to. I feel like your early years kind of almost helped you earn the stripes. That the hard work was put in, the foundations was built. So whatever field that you went in next was like, I just know what I need to do. Because the graft is already set in stone. Like, I just need to, like, put in a little bit more. Or like, you already know what to do to get to a point, and then after that, when you're in a better environment, better skills, better clientele, more money, you're only going to flourish even more. I think that's one skill that people lack, is the art of selling. How hard was it for you when you first started, when you just getting thrown in the deep end? I'm sure there was a lot of times where you were like speaking to someone and then you would like stutter and be like, I don't know what I'm saying.
Bro, the first time I made a sale, I was like, really? I was like, you're really going to part money? Like, and I just couldn't believe that they were, but I think I've always been like quite like a people person, so I think that's always been like my strength, and I get that from my dad, is he can talk to anybody, and like, and you can pick up on things when you're talking to people. And like just building a good rapport with people, like I feel that's a huge thing about sales is, and my dad's always said, listen to people, you know, like genuinely listen to people and remember stuff about them, because people remember that, and then they'll like you for that. So I think that really helped. But like when they were like, you have £1,000 target, this is your first day on the job, I was like, I've got to try and make £1,000. And you would sell 10 sessions for 250 quid, and you would see £25 of that on top of your £2.50 an hour. Wow. which is crazy. But it was,
those are the stomping grounds, right?
Yeah,
those are stomping grounds.
Going back to Nirvana, like, I think, I did an unholy amount of passports and classes and stuff. But all that does is it just molds you. Like, I did that for like 3 years, and it just molds you as a trainer. Like when you have like one woman that's come in and she's 52 and she's overweight and she's got bad knees, and you're like, okay, cool, you have to write a plan for her, and then she goes away, and then like this triathlete comes in and he wants a plan, so you've got to research and do all that. And I would get those like 8 a day for like 2+ years, you know, so like that really helped mold me, as in being able to communicate with people and like do all the programming and stuff. I think that was a really beneficial thing.
How long, if someone was to come in new into the PT game or like the online training game, how long would it take them to see like a decent return on their investment, or like in their time? Like,
it all depends, man. Like, as you know, like this industry is a cowboy-ridden industry, and the thing is with Instagram and Facebook, and this is what frustrates me, I'll be completely honest, is that just because you're in ridiculously good shape doesn't mean you know what you're talking about.
100%.
And
it's always the people in the gym. Sorry to cut you off, but it's always the people in the gym that are not in the best shape that have the most clients. The PTs that are not in the best shape, that don't have six packs ripping out their stomach, they always have the most clients. I've always noticed that. I'm like, well, how are these guys getting clients? Like, how?
And
you know what I mean?
It's because they understand as well, but it's more sort of the way that it's working with Facebook and Instagram is like, oh, I've taken an ab shot which has like a lot of edits on it, and then people have gone, oh yeah, I want that, and then they'll sign up for it, but that person's only been qualified for 2 months, has never trained anybody in their life. Like, you're actually in danger at this point, because there's no experience behind it to make sure that you're okay, because a lot of it is like, yes, dangerous if they give you the wrong exercises, because the likelihood is they're probably training you the exact way that they train, or they're training you like based off of whatever their coach has given them. Because I've known people that have done that, like people that have been doing bodybuilding stuff, and they've literally replicated what they've got and given it to their client, and or they're going to fuck up your relationship. They're going to fuck up your relationship with food. Yeah, like that's and
you know what you just mentioned. The second one was that was in my mind. It's a lot of the fitness industry, and I think we need to make it clear on the podcast, is it's riddled with instant gratification. You know, it's like, you know, here's a picture, you want to become like this, drop me a message, drop me a DM. And I think, first of all, the people who are taking these shots, they never got this instantly. You know, they've probably been there for 10 years, you know, cried their eyes out, they've got a really bad relationship with food, starving themselves out, depleting themselves of all sorts of things, taking everything under the sun that they can to get them to that point. Now they've made it to that point, and they've, you know, and like I was reading this thing recently that some of the people who have the worst relationship with food, like the worst relationship with food, are bodybuilders. Bodybuilders, yeah. Because that is not a normal way of living. You know, telling your body, you know, how to eat and when to eat and what time you eat, and they're like this. There's like almost like a psychopath, like when you're eating food, and that's not normal. I mean, unless you're getting paid. You know, to walk around in your underpants on stage, right? Most people aren't getting paid for that. So, you know, to have that, and this is something recently, you know, I've been like, behavioral changes, like a lot of PTs, they won't work on behavioral changes. They won't work on, you know, what's your relationship with food and how you should eat and when do you feel, what's your cue to eat and should you be starving. No, it's like, you know what, no sugar, no sweets, no carb, no this, no that, and eat rabbit food all day. And I think, well, just looking at the PT, there's a very far, now I think it's got to a point, online especially, that you can see a good PT from the masses, because a good PT now has to go above and beyond to explain the scientific explanations behind what they're saying, rather than saying, do you know what, come drop me a message and you'll get a transformation in 12 weeks. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing is, when I first went freelance, I was very much the, like, come to me for 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and I'll get you absolutely shredded. And I would, but they would hate their lives the whole process. But I was like, oh, it'd be good for Instagram, I'll get a photo, blah, 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 you'll look great for your holiday, and then in 2 weeks' time, you'll be back to square one, you know? Yeah. And that was my first couple of years, I'll be completely honest. It was like, limiting carbs, like, all that sort of stuff. And it was only until the point where, like, I basically ran myself into the ground. So when I first went self-employed, I was doing 70 hours a week, and I did that for like 3 years. Wow. And like, it killed me. Like, I've got this thing now called chronic fatigue, so I have to like manage it and stuff, where I was sick for like 6 months, and the doctors kept being like, you got flu, and I was like, I can't have flu for like 6 months, like this is ridiculous. And I had to really like sit back, and it taught me a lot at the same point. But within sort of like, I think it was 14 weeks, I went from 28% body fat, because all I was doing was sleeping and like just essentially just not moving. I went from 28% body fat to 8% body fat. But the way that I did that...
How long?
In 14 weeks.
Okay.
But don't you remember, I was like cardio every day, nothing intense. I actually watched like every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in that period, just walking uphill on a treadmill. And I would train 4 or 5 times on top of that, and I was really balanced with my food. Like, I would make food that would hit my macros, stay within my calories, but it was tasty, and I would put the time and the effort into the habits of creating like this prep time. And I would eat foods I would like, and then I would work my calories and my macros to the point where on a Saturday morning I would wake up and I could have 6 crumpets, and then I'd go watch an episode of Buffy while walking uphill on treadmill. As I'm on the way out of the gym, I'm calling the pizza place to get delivered by the time I get home after I've had a shower. And it's that really opened my eyes, because I was like, you can still get impressive results in a very short period of time. Like anybody listening or watching, I recommend that you give yourself at least 6 months, like at least 6 months. But for me, because I already had that experience, I knew what my body liked, and I was mad determined. One thing that I think might actually be a character flaw of mine is when I get my head spun on something, like I'll be locked on and just go straight in for it.
Yeah. Join the club.
Yeah,
Join the
yeah,
club,
yeah. And I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's great, and then
Yeah.
other times I'm like, oh, man, this is obsessive. I need to chill.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like it's one of those where you can with the balance, and that's what taught me about habits and stuff. Because a big focus what I do with my clients is it's all about habit building and forming. Because at the end of the day, in the industry, a lot of people that I speak to have had a previous coach, and my goal when I take on a client is you won't need another PT again. Like you will take all the information and you will know how to work like after we work together, you know. And I'd always say minimum 6 months. Like you need to apply yourself for 6 months to do
100%.
that.
And I think I think that's kind of another thing about personal training. A lot of personal trainers forget is the fact that it's personal.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, there's a lot of PTs out there that will just give you a set plan. Here's a plan, go get on with it, type of thing. But every person is different. You know, everybody reacts differently to certain types of food. People react different. They have different behaviors.
Yeah.
People have different cravings. People have different problems. People have different lifestyles. You know, you can't give a certain plan to somebody who's just relaxing in the office. Not relaxing, wrong word. Somebody who's working in the office all day versus somebody who's got a manual labor job, or versus somebody who's got a bit of both or something. There's so many different factors, and I think the more and more you sort of study about personal training, the more you realize is that it's personal, and that's what you pay for. And I think personal training should be a premium service. It is a premium service. And a lot of people come to personal trainers like, oh, no, you're charging too much. Well, like, sorry to say, but it's personal training. The guy is taking his time out to personally train you.
Yeah.
And he's not going to take 15 clients. He's not doing a class here. He's training you. He's got to think about you. He's got to learn everything about you. And sometimes when personal trainers are charging, I think there's a difference between training somebody in the gym versus personally training somebody.
Yeah.
I think they're two different things. Obviously, training them in the gym is also part of personal training, but then there's a lot of things that you do outside the gym, which is probably more important, which is, I think there's a stat, which is, I think 5% of fat loss is done by exercise, when 80-90% of it is done outside behavior changes.
Diet and behaviour.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of rubbish.
Yeah,
out there.
100%.
Too much rubbish out there.
I completely agree. But it's kind of like with the premium side of things, it's like with what I do, I transitioned from one-to-one from online, through the pandemic and stuff. But it was such a refreshing change to what I was used to, because I would have that 1 hour with somebody. They would go away a lot of the time, but I like to say that I get really good results because I'm the king of nagging. I can be like, right, do it. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do this. But a lot of the time when they leave and then they come back the following week, they're just expecting to be babysat. You chat about their week. They take you through an exercise session again. And I was bored of that, man. There's no outcome with that. You don't actually make a difference. And to me, it's all about making the difference. But with the online, I can, like you said, is have more impact with the habits, their everyday life. And it's kind of like if somebody goes, oh, well, you charge too much. I'm like, well, you don't want to change your life then, because I'm here to change your life.
100%. 100%. I think that you made that last point you mentioned, I just want to as in, which is this point about investing into change. I think the question is, how much would you pay somebody to become a new you? Right, and that's with anything. For example, you do business coaching, right? I have coaches pretty much for every aspect of my life, right? So I'll have coaching for business, I'll have coaching for other things, I'll have coaching for financing, I'll have coach for my religious kind of things, right? And a lot of people say, oh, why you got so many coaches and you've done your education? I'm like, the point isn't about education. The point is you're always looking to become a better version of yourself.
Yes.
If you're one person 1 year and you haven't, and you're like, oh, I want to become this person, you've got to invest into that. That might be time, that might be effort, and the reason why you get a coach is to invest into, so that you're not making the same mistakes. You're taking all that person's experience, all that person's all the 10, 15 years that they've invested, and you're condensing it and getting all the gems from that, and to become the better self of you. Exactly. And then it might be the case that coach may not be, that after 2 years you might think, okay, do you know what, I need to step it up, I need to go somewhere else. And then you drain that and you go to somewhere else, and then you go learn something from there. Yeah. And I think coaching is something a lot of people underestimate. Investing into coaching is almost basically investing into becoming a new you.
100%.
And here's that's a marketing thing to tell into your clients, by the way.
I literally say the exact same thing, because anybody that comes onto an onboarding call, I'm like, we're not here so that you can be the same person that you are now. Like, we need to identify what your challenges are. We need to find out what holds you back, and then we need to find ways to overcome that and
100%.
instill new habits and like make you enjoy what you do, because that will be the change.
I agree with that.
I'll only take on, like, in the calls, like, I'll only take on the people that I think are suited. If they're not suited, I'm not going to take their money, and I'm not going to waste our time.
Suited as in they're determined.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people will come in, I want to lose weight, but you tell them you need to be in the calorie deficit and you can't eat cheeseburgers, or you can't like eat your favorite cereal every single day, or whatever the case may be. They're like, I don't really think about it.
Well, I would
didn't think about that, mate. You know what I mean?
To be honest, I would be the first one to be like, well, I don't think this is right.
Yeah.
Like, like, it's kind of, you can hear from somebody's tone of voice whether or not they want to be there.
Exactly.
And if they're fed up with the way that they are, like, there's a big difference. I always say that I don't want to take the people that have 6 weeks before Ibiza and they want to get shredded, because, like, they're just going to hate their lives. I'm going to hate the whole experience. Like, I would rather work with people that are determined to change it once and for all, and that's going to be way more refreshing to me in 10 years' time, when they can turn around and go, oh, well, Sean, you remember Sean? Yeah, he changed my life. Like, that to me is a legacy that I wanna sort of, like,
100%.
Sorry, just want to mention one more thing.
Go for it.
Just before I forget.
I know, snagging
is Sean, which is the desperation. A lot of people, especially when it comes to coaching, there's this element of, I can't afford it, right? I can't afford this whole this coaching thing, and I think a lot of things need to be clarified to a lot of people, which is how much money people waste on a daily basis. They'll spend that £5 on a coffee, they spend that £5 on a burger, they spend £5 on a dessert, they spend another £5 on, I don't know, a random thing, and if you add that up, that's probably half you, or maybe a full your coaching costs.
Yep.
You could, as in, there's so much, and a lot of people in finance, there's so much money that goes to waste around you, but if you invested that into yourself, like,
if you think about, like, a weekend, like, especially this day and age, like, you're probably spending minimum like 80 quid on on just a night out. Like, that's not even probably with dinner or anything attached to it, and that's a perpetual cycle of making you feel like crap. And if you're like, actually investing in myself that's a big commitment. Like you said, look at how much you're spending at the weekend on fast food, on alcohol, on doing pointless shit, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, you're not benefiting and you're not growing, and you're not, like, I'm not saying don't ever do it. I'm just saying moderate it. If you're unhappy where you're at, moderate it. So then that way you're actually spending the funds on things that are benefiting you, rather than just putting you through that same cycle over and over.
Mate, I hate this one topic. I literally hate it so much when people say, "Oh, you know what? Your meals." We get it all the time. Your meals are so expensive, but yet they rather spend £12.50 on the Uber flipping Deliveroo order, and then spend £6 on the shipping. So it's £20 every single day, £100 a week. They spend £400 a month, and then our service is like half the price. Oh no, but I don't want to spend it all at once because that's a lot of money. It's the exact same thing here. People, when they're faced with real change or real benefit in their life, I think people are just afraid of change. They're set in a routine. They know what to expect. Even if it costs them more, they're willing to do it. And there's an alternative that could potentially save them the time, potentially save them money, and they just they just put it off and off and off.
One thing that I like to say to people as well, when they are on the fence and they're not over the line, but I think is going to really benefit them, is I always just say, like, what's going to make you feel better? Like, that money in the bank, or you feeling a lot better about yourself in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
which one is going to mean more to you? And if they're completely honest with themselves, then obviously we're on that phone call for a reason, you know. And it's not because you want to lose fat; it's because you want to feel better about yourself. You know, you want to feel nicer about yourself. You want to feel more confident. You want to wear clothes, and we're dominated by Instagram and Facebook and Tinder, and it's a very vain reality that we have, where you want to look nice, you know, and that's not a bad thing, because everyone should have confidence, but it's all dominated by that. But if you don't think it's worth investing, and you'd rather get a large pizza and get like 5 pints and stuff like that, and like hate looking in the mirror, then that's a decision that you've got to make, you know.
I do want to touch on one more thing. not one more thing, but I want to touch on this important thing because I'm really fascinated by it. It was 2020, February. Set the scene. Lockdown first hits. What are you doing? And what did you do? Like, what did you personally do when that first news broke?
I had been back a week from my 30th birthday, which was in Florida, where none of this was going on. So we literally landed back in England, where everybody's wearing face masks. Like, things are going down. So we literally landed all tanned and like, oh yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
And got on the train. Everyone's masked up and stuff. Week before, like, I was still doing one-to-ones, so I was doing like group training and one-to-ones and things. And as soon as like there was the first report of it being in the country, I shut up shop because I was like, don't know what it's going to do to everyone if it gets in here. Like, I don't know. Like, for me, it was whole like moral responsibility. You know, like if somebody had caught it from coming to see me, or if I'd caught it and given it to my dad, and like, I just wouldn't be able to live with myself if somebody had got seriously hurt. You know, so I was like, oh, I'm going to shut shop, and everyone's working from home, so maybe if I start like midday classes, like people are going to join. You know, if I put it on Instagram, like people are going to turn up. Like I've done thousands of classes. Like I can run it for all abilities and have a bit of rapport and just do it into the camera. So started doing that before Joe Wicks as well, which really irritates me because I'm like that.
Everyone thought he started it
son
first,
of a bitch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he was the week after. But started off with 5 people, and then I did it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the whole 3 months. And at points I was getting like over 100 people each time, but it was cool. It was a really cool thing. And I did some business coaching and stuff like that alongside it. Started transitioning more to online because at that point that's all you could do. So I was like trying to have my one-to-one service, but trying to also refine the online because I dabbled, but I didn't do anywhere near as much as I give now. So it was kind of like, it's trial and error as well. You have to learn from each person that you have. And so then I only had like an Excel spreadsheet where I would give them their like workout on that, and then I would tell them what calories to have. Now I've got like an app, I've got a recipe book, I've got this, I've got that, like all these things where I've been able to see where previous clients may have stumbled. I can go, well, I need a resource for that. So if that does happen again, and it's continuously happening, I'm continuously thinking of ways that it can make it easier and more understandable and more digestible for the everyday person to be able to do. But like lockdown, I would never have been able to move to London. I would never have been able to go fully online. Like it was such a crazy time, and yeah, it really defined the online side of things.
It kind of blew us up a little bit as well, because before then we were kind of dabbling locally, and then when we went nationwide, we decided to take this business seriously. We're like, listen, we need to do online, advertise on TikTok, do whatever, and then it just kind of a lot of our momentum has been built off that 2-3 year run that we built in the start of 2020.
100%.
So cool. I think that's a good note to end it on. Sean, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming down, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
it's been honestly like hearing your story, understanding where you've come from. Genuinely, like when you first started talking about you're a single parent household and you'll come up, and I think a lot of people would definitely take benefit and inspiration from that, especially just to see where you are now, the opportunities that you've taken, the mindset that you had to have to in your first sales experience job, not knowing what to do. I think it's just definitely been an inspiration. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really nice chatting to you both.
No, 100%.
Thank you, Sean, for coming, and your story is very inspirational. Keep it going, and hopefully we'll be in touch.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do another one.
Can we work together in some way?
Yeah.
We should, man. It's good. We should work together in some way. We could open that discussion.
Yeah, that would be cool.
100%.
Excellent.
Cool, Sean. Appreciate that, man.
Mate,
cheers.
Lovely to meet you both.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Cool. That's a wrap.